Hello and welcome to the HP Video Game Podcast, your weekly video game news podcast, hosted by the two most beautiful boys this week. Welcome, Brandon.
What's up, man?
Not much. You're looking fresh, you're looking clean, you're looking happy. How are you doing this week?
Pretty good, pretty good. Yeah, I've had a couple days off now. And yeah, it does the body good to have some days off from work, especially when they're consecutive. There's nothing that really replaces. I've had jobs where like you'll have one day off, and I feel like you can never quite get in a relaxation groove because you're already getting ready for the next day of work when you're in that one day in a row. So the fact that I'm having a couple off in a row and this is like my new routine is wonderful. It gives me time to like fully, without shame, without repercussions, just like relax. So I've been good. I've been good. Yeah, and I decided to go goatee instead of beard for the first time in like a decade. So that's the change in face. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I was telling you that before the show. It's like almost shocking. You ever get like a really drastic haircut, Dave? And like you don't know that you don't like it, but it's just so different that it takes a little bit for you to like maybe get an objective view on it. Have you ever had an experience like that?
Yeah, so I shaved my head once. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And I only did it once. And I wouldn't say I disliked it, but seeing the shape of my head kind of bothered me. I don't know if there was anything actually wrong with the shape of my head, but I think it was just so jarring for
Right,
someone who generally had like medium to medium longer hair for his whole life. I did
right.
it for like rugby one summer. I was just so sick of dealing with it in the heat and the sweat that I was just like I shaved it off. And it was
Yeah,
great, but you're right. It was jarring and you kind of look at yourself and you're like, I'm gonna get used to this. And sometimes I'm sure you do, but
right.
sometimes you don't. But that's a good thing about hair, right, Brandon? It grows back, generally
It
speaking.
for most people, yeah. For me, um, but yeah, that's the thing about the facial art too. I'm already starting to get some stubble, right? And it's been less than 24 hours. So really nothing too bad. It'll grow right back if I have a problem. And yeah, I was still definitely not used to it, but I just had a fantastic dinner. I had spam. Dave, have you ever had spam?
I've never ever had spam, but
Okay.
I'd love to experiment.
Yeah, this is my first time. Spam is the sort of like meat cacophony, kind of like bologna is.
It's a product
But
of the war, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, or the Great Depression, something like that. The Dust Bowl, maybe. It's a product of some sort of like bad time in society.
Mm.
But it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So this is my first spam outing. And it's a special edition spam. It's Korean barbecue flavored
Wow.
spam.
And did you cook
Um,
it, or how does it work with
we
spam?
did brown it. You could just raw dog it like a piece of bologna. It does have like a little bit of a cat food consistency if you do that. It's pretty soft. But we browned it. We threw it in some ramen. I had some kimchi that Dustin's wife Holly made me.
Nice.
We had some QP mayo. It was proper, proper, proper. I'm telling you, dude. And then we had some pot stickers as well that happened to be kimchi flavored. But a spam outing is called a spouting.
You know, there was a time, Brandon, where we didn't make the show live.
Yeah.
And so we would record it and then we would put it up. And the fun thing about that is we could name the show whatever we wanted based on what we talked about in the show. And it wasn't always something that was related to the news. And if that was the case this week, and I know we wouldn't have had this live comment, but I 100% would have named the show A Spam Outing is Called a Spouting. But
It's
anyways,
fantastic.
yeah.
It's fantastic. And thank you, Edward Walton, for the compliment in chat. I appreciate you,
He
OG.
does look good. He looks
Thank
excellent.
you.
Brandon, I was thinking about you earlier this week or on the weekend actually. I was watching a movie and the movie was filmed in not your hometown, but the place where you live close and you now work, and which is Pittsburgh.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And it was The Dark Knight Rises, and I believe all
Yes,
of
yes.
the Dark Knight movies were. I think Nolan's Gotham was strongly based on Pittsburgh because of I went back after and I watched Batman Begins, and there's a lot of like panning out shots where you see like Gotham, and it's clearly like it's got all the bridges and stuff, but it's like a big body of water. But
Right.
yeah, I was like Dark Knight Rises. Obviously, that movie is heavily features the city of Pittsburgh, obviously because the bridges were so important to the narrative, and you had Heinz Field and the Pittsburgh Steelers and all that kind of stuff. And you've obviously seen the movie, so
yeah, of course.
I was thinking about you, and I was looking at all the shots. I'm like, I wonder if one of those is the building that Brandon works in. But the question, Brandon, is if a terrorist like Bane took the actual city of Pittsburgh hostage, do you think that Batman would rehab from a broken back in a matter of 3 months and come and save the real city of Pittsburgh?
Probably with the amount of money he has that like Bezos money. So you probably would get some like experimental stem cell treatment that is like the healing beam. Something like that. You know what I mean? Alfred would like stroke him to health or something. I don't know. But I'm lucky, dude. If that ever happens, I don't work in the city. I work on the north shore of the city, and I live north. So I never actually cross the city lines. Like I work on the shore that faces the north side of the city. It's called the North Shore.
But you're like right there, right?
Literally, I have to go across a bridge, and I am in downtown. So like it is the city of Pittsburgh, but I'm not in the middle of the city, right? I'm not in city proper,
right?
But it's still very much the city. Like where I work is right beside our baseball field, which is still considered in the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. I was planning on coming to Pittsburgh this summer. Actually, plans got changed, but we were going to come and see a baseball game. So it's cool to know that you're right on the other side.
Let me know when you're going to be in. I can get you premium free parking. I'm not exaggerating. I can get you premium free parking, and you have to walk a very short distance, and it will be absolutely free.
And that extends to all of our listeners, obviously.
Yes, of course, of course. Come down to Pittsburgh. I'll treat you right. I don't require anything but over the pants handy with no eye contact. Eye contact, actually, I don't want to say none. It's optional. It's up to the discretion of the person asking for the free parking whether or not they'd like to partake in the eye contact.
You got to give a little eye contact.
I'm a reasonable man.
A little bit of spit,
Hey, listen. At this rate, I'd take it rough and tumble.
You may have noticed that Ben is not here tonight, which is why this episode is just going to be utter filth for 60 minutes.
And there will be a very clear lack of train.
Yeah.
There will be absolutely no train noises this entire episode. And frankly, I don't know that I like it. I don't know that I like it,
because I do, when the train comes through, I can hear it, and I don't know, he can obviously hear it right away, but I love to see his reaction as it happens, because I'm always like, is he going to stop talking, or is he going to try and talk over top of the train? But you can always see that little like twitch in his right eye, just
right?
Train. Dude, and we don't care, Ben. We don't care about the train.
Yeah.
We know what's happening. You don't have to worry about it.
Just a little bit of annoyance, but I get it though, because if I would be more than annoyed every single time, I would like probably try and chase the train down. And it's funny because I can hear it too. I live very close to Ben, but not like Ben. Ben lives in the train tracks. But no train this month, this week.
Yeah. Ben is away on a work trip. He claims his YouTube channel, which the HP podcast is airing live on every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. He claims his YouTube channel is not monetized, but I think he's being coy, a little bit subdued. It probably is monetized, and we're going to get it demonetized tonight. So
yeah, I plan on doing that. I think all you have to say is cunt.
Just one cunt? Are there like a certain... Is there a cunt threshold that we have to hit?
Is it like the rated R with the fuck? Where like you could say one and you got to like choose where you say the word cunt in the episode? You can't lead with it. Although that might be brilliant. Maybe if you lead with it out the bat and then whoever's listening has to listen to the rest of it. It's probably an AI. Who am I kidding?
Yeah. So apparently we're already demonetized. We did it. There we go. This is the HP Video Game Podcast. We talk about video games, amongst other things, after our 12 minutes of banter to start the show. And if you like what you hear, you can support us over on patreon.com/handsomephantom for as little as $1 a month. There are costs associated with doing what we do, so we appreciate your support. And of course, you can listen for free. We are live on YouTube at Ben is Handsome and Handsome Phantoms YouTube channel every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. And you can also listen to us not live. We are on pretty much anywhere you can get a podcast. I believe that goes up on free feeds on Thursdays, maybe a little bit later this week. But in any case, we're happy you are joining us tonight. You can also hang out with us at Discord at handsomephantom.com/Discord. We talk about video games. We talk about other stuff. There was some chatter in the Discord this week about some new TSA rulings that mean you don't have to take your shoes off at the airport anymore. And we have the sort of people who that was a big deal for in our Discord. So come hang out. Doing a great job selling it, aren't I? Brandon, do you want to talk about some video game news?
Yeah, dude. Honestly, we might as well. we might as well.
What the hell? Let's start off with Ubisoft. Ubisoft says Star Wars Outlaws failed due to declining interest in the franchise. This comes from mpfirst.com. It's the children's fault, not us. Last year, Ubisoft released one of its biggest open world games, but it did not achieve significant success despite the help of the Star Wars brand. Although Star Wars Outlaws generated some excitement, it failed to gain widespread popularity and ultimately became one of the biggest disappointments for the French gaming company in recent times. In fact, the game even contributed to a drop in Ubisoft stock prices. During a recent shareholder meeting, Star Wars Outlaws was mentioned again, and Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot gave an unexpected reason for why the game failed. The shareholders wanted to know what the company had learned from the game's poor performance. While the CEO admitted that Star Wars Outlaw had design issues, he attributed the game's failure primarily to the overall state of the Star Wars franchise. He said, "For Star Wars Outlaws, we didn't reach our sales targets. The game suffered from a number of items. First, it suffered from the fact that it was released at a time when the brand that it belonged to was in a bit of choppy waters, and the game had a few items that still needed to be polished, and they were polished and debugged in the early weeks, but it did affect sales volumes." These comments are particularly interesting because just last year, Ubisoft blamed players' expectations, stating that with the current challenges in the market and gamers expecting extraordinary experiences, simply delivering solid quality is no longer enough. He further explained, "We did heavily improve the game by troubleshooting and debugging, and as I said in those early weeks. And when it released on upcoming and when it is released on upcoming consoles such as the Switch 2, it will have a new version. The improvements to the game are not finished, and we will continue improving it." So, Brandon, I don't think you played Star Wars Outlaws. You're not much of a Ubisoft shill anymore. But it kind of seems like there's a bit of lack of accountability here with the reason why Outlaws failed. What are your thoughts on why Star Wars Outlaws didn't quite fit the bill?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons, frankly. I think that someone in power at Ubisoft, it makes sense why they would kind of take the lowest hanging fruit. I don't necessarily disagree with what he's saying exactly. I just think that he's kind of missing the point. I think that Star Wars has been one of the biggest series, one of the biggest IPs that's ever existed. And it certainly has come and went as the years have went on. It's had high points and low points. And I will say that compared to when I was in my teen years, I think that it's kind of on a downward swing. We're getting a lot more media that's not doing quite as well just because it's Star Wars. And I think that's kind of what he's going for here. But we also get a lot of media that is Star Wars that is still doing well. It's just both. I think the volume of media we're getting from the IP is so much larger that not everything's going to be good. I think that's kind of the differentiating factor here. But I think moreover, he's kind of completely disregarding all of the major issues that the game had at launch, and how uninteresting it was and how the stealth was kind of forced and subpar. I think he's pretty much just willing away all of the issues we're having here and kind of chalking it up to IP being down, IP not being as interesting to people. And I would say that the IP did nothing but help this game. I think that if this wasn't a Star Wars IP at all, um, and it was the same game, I think it would have done substantially worse. I think. Um, so he did mention a little bit how there were some issues and the game is kind of in a dynamic form, and that's obvious. I mean, obviously they still want to push copies, but once again, I think that Ubisoft and the higher ups at Ubisoft kind of completely missed the point of why things do bad, and they seem to continually be kind of tone deaf. And obviously, this is very PR speak, right? It looks good to blame something that isn't completely related to you entirely. I mean, aside from them choosing to invest in the Star Wars IP, they're kind of shifting the blame for the most part elsewhere. Now he did have a small acknowledgement of the troubles, but it's not nearly enough. I mean, there was a lot more going on with this game than just a troubled launch. Um, Dave, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the troubled launch thing is a little overstated because, as I recall, like the complaints at launch weren't like the game's in a terrible state. It was more like there was annoying level design where if you get caught, you instantly fail the mission, and it didn't really have the player choice that I think a lot of players come to expect from open world Ubisoft games, especially those in the vein of like Assassin's Creed, which this was because it was largely based around stealth. But I don't know. I feel like this is more not so much because of declining interest in the Star Wars franchise. I think it's because of declining interest in Ubisoft. Now, I do have to caveat that slightly because we did just earlier this week get some more news that Assassin's Creed Shadows just crossed 5 million players. I don't know why they don't say 5 million units sold. The game was not on Game Pass or anything like that. I'm sure maybe it was on Ubisoft Plus or something. But I
Well,
mean,
that's
that to
probably
me,
why. Yeah, the Ubisoft Plus
that
probably.
that to me is a success. So people still seem to be interested in this type of game and, this type of game that is stealth. But I think, I'll echo what you say. This is such a cop out. You can't blame the franchise, especially when games like EA's Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order sold really, really well, as Ed kind of mentioned in the chat there. And, just a month or so ago, we had like a resurgence in Battlefront 2, which is
Mm-hmm.
and my issue with this game from the start when I saw the trailers was like, okay, it looks kind of cool. I like some of the stories it looks like they're going to tell, but the power fantasy that's synonymous with this franchise is not something that they're building this game around. You're a smuggler with a pistol. And I can get that in a lot of different other games that aren't Star Wars. And it's like, if I'm playing a Star Wars game, like I want a lightsaber and I want force powers, or I want to be in an X-Wing or a TIE fighter. Like, I don't want to be sneaking around with a pistol. That to me is not a reason to build a game around the Star Wars franchise. You can build anything around that sort of gameplay mechanic. And I just don't think that people go to Star Wars video games for stealth and sneaking and shooting. They go to other franchises for that sort of thing. So I just kind of think the choice of character and setting was it kind of put Ubisoft on the wrong foot. And the game's on my wish list. I want to play it at some point because it still looks like a high quality game, but I want to play Jedi Survivor before I want to play that, because it just, to me, it's not really what I want in a Star Wars game. So you kind of mentioned something interesting there where a lot of this is like shareholder speak. You have to in some way say that, failures are because of external factors, which in a way, the Star Wars, it's a little bit saturated with all the movies and with all the TV shows that are out there now. We don't really get a whole lot of games, but I still think ultimately this is a cop out. And I think they just kind of made the wrong game, but
Yeah.
it is what it is, I suppose.
Yeah, this is the kind of continued. I mean, it's really sad to see, truthfully, as I always poke fun at Ubisoft, and it's kind of sad to see how many pitches they get and how many misses they take, how many times they just completely strike out. And it seems to be almost every week we're talking about some sort of misguided attempt by Ubisoft. And I just wonder how many times in a row Ubisoft can say the wrong thing or go the wrong direction before things need to vastly change. I mean, even a month or two ago, we were talking about essentially the whole restructure of their entire business model and all the layoffs. And you were hopeful, and I think you were completely right, that maybe this meant that they were moving in the right direction. They were going to focus up. And everything we've seen since then, whether it be the new AI-driven projects, whether it be something like this, some more misguided attempts, I mean, this signals more to me that there is problems than a game doing just okay like Outlaws did, right? The fact that you have someone in upper management that's so clearly tone deaf, and maybe this is something he has to say, right? It kind of saves his ass, but that's not really the point. There's like a foundational and structural problem at Ubisoft where there's just a lack of understanding of not only what makes a good game, but when a good game doesn't come out, what the problems were. And I wonder how Ubisoft moves forward. And they've proven that they can put out games that will sell well. I mean, we have Shadows, for instance, but it feels like for every 3 times they bat, they hit one out of the park. You know what I mean? And that's kind of a not very a sustainable business model. And yeah, it's sad to see, really, because they have good IP. They really do, and that's kind of what's kind of at stake in it for me. They don't make the games that I necessarily always resonate with, but they have IP that is important and that I could like. So
They definitely seem to be grasping, but more on them later in the show because it gets funnier with Ubisoft. Next up, we have the end of an era. Microsoft's movie and TV service is shutting down. This comes from xda-developers.com. Microsoft is pulling the HDMI cable on its movies and TV service today. This was published a little bit about 5 days ago. As it confirmed in a support document, effective immediately, you can no longer purchase any TV shows or movies from the Microsoft Store on both Windows and Xbox. The move comes as the company continues to distance itself from consumer entertainment services, shutting down Groove Music Pass back in 2017. I've never heard of that before.
neither
And more
have I.
recently, canceling a bunch of big-name Xbox game releases amid mass layoffs. You can still access your purchases for now, as the movies and TV app will continue to exist. As of right now, there is still an entertainment section of the Microsoft Store that points you to movies and TV shows, but clicking on any of them displays a warning at the top of at the top that this type of content is no longer available for purchase. It also says that you can continue to view your purchase content via the movies and TV app, an app that doesn't even come pre-installed on Windows PCs anymore. Naturally, you'd be right in being skeptical at the future of the app and for questioning the future of your media purchases if the Redmond firm ever chooses to remove it from the Microsoft Store entirely. When Groove Music was discontinued, Microsoft shut down the app, but it also gave its users a bridge to move their libraries to Spotify if they chose to do so, and to download anything it purchased. Just trying to see if there's anything else. I got to read this next one because there's a word I haven't said in a long time. Microsoft used to care a lot more about consumer services like these. Back in 2006, Zune Video was part of the Zune marketplace because in competition with Apple, Microsoft actually had a product that was aimed entirely at media consumption. When the Xbox One was released in 2012, that was built as an entertainment device, and Zune Video was rebranded as Xbox Video. Indeed, Xbox Video existed across Xboxes, Windows PCs, Windows phones, and more. Brandon, it's a jarring moment, when a service such as this shuts down. Are you going to be okay? What are you going to, what are the next steps for Brandon now that Microsoft's movies and TV service is shutting down?
I had dumped most of my savings over the years into buying movies directly from Microsoft. So I'm at a bit of a loss as to what I'm going to do moving forward. If I'm even going to be able to watch movies at all, I mean, there's no other way to watch stuff like this unless you physically go buy something. But ultimately, this is a good call. Um, I feel bad for people that have invested in this ecosystem. That not the ecosystem per se, but the app that have bought movies through Microsoft because I'm not thinking it's looking too good. I'm gonna be real with you. Um, I'm thinking this sort of thing's gonna go away. But why this sort of thing was even an option in today's day and age when streaming is such a large part of this conversation, I'm surprised to hear that it's stuck around as long as it has, with how long something like Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus has been around already. So yeah, the fact that this is going away is fine by me. I think it's honestly something that just bloats Xbox's their store, and I don't really think there's too many people that are going to be benefiting from it moving forward, and I don't think they're making any money on it either. And
No.
so the only thing that does kind of suck is, like I said, the people that have already bought in. Um, it would be nice if they could find a way to work around that. But even as you said earlier, when they shut down the music service, if you've purchased something, Spotify doesn't let you purchase songs. So how are you transferring your music onto a service that you don't see? I don't understand that piece of it. How they like it's a streaming service. Did they just give you like a year free of Spotify streaming? Like, I don't know. It's kind of baffling to me. And unless you're physically owning a disc now, I don't see much of a reason to buy things digitally, especially movies. So,
Yeah.
yeah, this is strange to me,
It-
but honestly, a good thing in my book. So,
the article referenced a pretty infamous um I don't know if this was E3, but I'll never forget the Microsoft conference where I think this is where they first showed off the Xbox One, and that was where they showed off the box. I think they showed some games, but the big push of the show was showing how this new Xbox was going to be the hub of your living room. It wasn't
yeah,
just a video
yeah,
game console anymore, Brandon. It was a an entertainment hub, and like everything you were going to do there. So you were going to watch your movies from your Xbox One, you're going to listen to your music from your Xbox One, you were going to watch live TV. I'll never forget they had like their own guide that came up, and like they put like a Lakers game on and all that stuff. And I remember looking at it and just being like, "Oh no,
what is this?
they've
What the
completely
fuck is
lost the
this? Yeah,
plot." But like in retrospect, you kind of got to give them Microsoft like credit for trying, because I think at the time, like, yeah, Netflix was a thing. I don't think Prime Video was. I don't know if Hulu was around. I think people were probably still using um what were the boxes, TiVos and stuff like that. So like this concept of like streaming media was still somewhat in its infancy. So I think they probably were well positioned to take a stab at something like that. But I remember when they did that show, and again, I'm not sure if it was E3, but it was very a video game centric show. I just thought this is where Microsoft is losing this generation, is they're taking the focus off gaming and trying to just attract so many people in to buy this piece of hardware, and it flopped so bad,
right,
so bad. And I think it was the next year they had a show that was just games. I don't
right,
even think they talked at all. They just did game trailer, game trailer, game trailer, and it was like great, but by that time it was almost too late. So it's kind of bittersweet to see movies and TV from Microsoft shut down, because I think this probably was one of like the last relics of that that failed Xbox One sort of media streaming strategy that just ultimately imploded on them, and in
right.
my opinion lost them that entire gaming generation. So
Yeah, I think, truthfully, in retrospect to the whole multimedia hub, where it connects, I feel like it was a valiant effort, like you said, especially for the time. I feel like the idea of having one central UI for all these different things is an enticing thing, but with how complicated, how many different players in the music space, how many different players in the streaming space, like it got too broad, right? And it would have been impossible for them to keep up. And it also was not like the core base of the audience. So I guess I got to respect the direction they were potentially trying to push it, but this was for the best ultimately,
Okay.
and was kind of an ill attempt at trying something different that wasn't really in their wheelhouse. So
Yep. Rest in peace,
rest in piss.
Microsoft Movies and TV service. Hopefully, you didn't buy anything there. I don't think I ever did, but who
Yeah, me
knows?
neither. Me neither.
Let's talk about Indiana Jones and more specifically Machine Games. Machine Games financials reveal Indiana Jones developer has a 6% profit margin. This comes from tweaktown.com. The financial performance of Xbox first party studio Machine Games shows that the Indiana Jones developer made $2.6 million in profit on a 6% margin. Swedish video game developer Machine Games publishes its full year financials, showing how much sales revenue and profit the Wolfenstein developer makes. As Microsoft dangles the sword of Damocles above its workers, creatives at the Xbox are fearful of layoffs. Microsoft has let go 15,000 workers this year alone, with hundreds of layoffs affecting the games division. This led to the cancellations and studio closures. Margins seemingly mattered more than ever, especially when products like interactive entertainment can command budgets of $100 million or more. While we don't know the total performance of Xbox, we can glean some info by way of Xbox's European subsidiaries. Every year, companies in the EU will publish their financial reports. The latest round of financials gives a closer look at how much money that Indiana Jones developers Machine Games may generate per year. In the report, we see that Machine Games has roughly 6% profit margin for calendar year 2024 with 26.07 million SEK, that's the currency that they work in profit on 428 million SEK in net sales. Indiana Jones was released in December 2024 on Xbox Game Pass, so it was unclear what proportion of the game sales it included here, but also remember that this game launched into Xbox Game Pass. Just some numbers here, a high level net sales 428 million SEK, that's 44 million US dollars. Operating expenses 41.53 million US dollars with a net profit of 2.679 million US dollars. These numbers need context. Machine Games is a subsidiary of ZeniMax and isn't a standalone entity, so we can't use this info to really determine the direct success or lack thereof of any game project. These figures aren't straightforward because of the business hierarchy to which they belong. It's unclear how ZeniMax manages its books, and even more unclear how it fits into Microsoft's numbers. In any case, these are the numbers that they have released to their shareholders and to the public. So these are what they want people to see. So when you hear 6% profit margin, $2.6 million in net profit from a company whose last game before Indiana Jones would have been Wolfenstein Youngblood in
Youngblood.
Youngblood in 2019. So theoretically, this profit is all coming from Indiana Jones or largely
Right.
from that. So
Right.
how do these numbers sound to you, Brandon? Are they higher than you expected? Are they about what you did expect or lower?
Uh, yeah, honestly, I mean, we go back to the whole IP conversation. Indiana Jones is obviously a huge IP, and I'm a large fan of Machine Games. This game didn't quite resonate with me, not only as someone who wasn't really the biggest Indiana Jones fan, but someone who played a little bit of it and saw what it was about and didn't really give it the time, truthfully. I think that 6% on paper sounds bad. I guess that any profit at all is good, right? But I feel like 6% doesn't really command very much confidence as far as a number you want to be above the board. But that being said, this for me, because I'm not the businessman, I'm not the one investing money in this. This is fantastic. A small part of me was actually worried that Machine Games was going to come out at a loss on this. Um, not because I truly knew the sales numbers, or maybe we didn't know the sales numbers altogether, but because this game seems to have like came out, and I know it's a single player game, so there, after you beat it, there's not much of a reason to continue to talk about it. But I feel like it kind of came and went, and only a small percentage of the people that I knew personally played it at all. And even someone like myself, who is a fan of the developer, that wasn't enough to kind of get me enticed. So, um, this is good. I'm very, very happy that this incredibly talented studio at least broke even, especially in the landscape that this studio lives in. Not that by any means that sort of gives it a pass to be safe to these layoffs, but I am very, very happy and was very happy to see this article and to see that they did exceed the bottom line. They did exceed. They were in the green. I want them to make more Wolfensteins desperately. I didn't like Youngblood. I didn't care for Youngblood, the type of game it was. But I would imagine that for many reasons, including the IP, this game did significantly better, even if it is only at 6% profit in this case. So yeah, I'm pleased to see this. I'll reiterate, I don't think this means that they're necessarily safe from any sort of layoffs because I feel like it's kind of rampant and the amount of money you can make for them does not always equate to the amount of employees that you do or do not use. So I would feel like any check mark towards keeping employees is a good check mark at all. And I feel like this is a big one. Not going negative is huge for a studio, especially with the amount of money that they likely and most definitely pumped into just getting the IP period and how long development costs took. So,
Yeah. A lot of games don't make money at all. So anytime you can turn a profit, I think that's really good. One point I forgot to mention from the article that I think is pretty important. MachineGames had its higher ever net sales in 2021, so 2 years after Youngblood came out, with 474 million SEK. I'm guessing that's around $50 million in sales. And this year they posted just over $44 million US in sales. So I think the timing in which this report came out is important too, because apparently it's for calendar year 2024, and Indiana Jones came out right at the very end. Now, predictably, games make most of the money right at launch, and considering this was a Game Pass title, I think maybe a lot of that was upfront anyway from Microsoft, and I'm assuming they're representing that in sales. Also got to keep in mind that this game also launched on PS5 in April of this year, and apparently it launched pretty well. And it wasn't on PS Plus or anything. I think it was a full price game. So I think MachineGames has probably done really well for themselves with Indiana Jones. And by all accounts, it was an excellent game. Our friend Ben, rest in peace, loved it when it came out, when he played it in December. So yeah, this is probably nothing but a success story, and hopefully this means we do get more Wolfenstein in the future. And yeah, I checked MachineGames. How many people do you think work there?
400 or 500 maybe.
162.
Oh my god,
not a big studio.
That's
Again,
great.
it's subsidiary, so they probably have some contracted or other employees that they use elsewhere. But
That's crazy.
162, pretty small
That's
studio.
crazy.
Um,
That's a big profit for that little people.
agreed.
So
Agreed.
yeah,
So yeah, and
that's
again, I think that's just a sliver of what they actually made on Indiana Jones after the PS5 release. So
and even into this year.
big time.
Like if you really think about it. So yeah, this is really good. What I don't want to see, and this is kind of looking forward to the future, is I think realistically because this did well, and I think this is a pretty safe bet. We're going to see another one, right, Dave?
Indiana Jones?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, looks like it.
yeah.
Ed Castian chat says Todd Howard would rip and tear through the Microsoft offices like Doomslayer if Phil touches his Indiana Jones team. There you go, Microsoft. Phil, back off.
Not even Todd can stop Phil at this point. He's like evil Phil. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that kind of makes me sad as someone who is a lover of the Wolfenstein series. I guess it's cool to put it on ice for a little bit. I should really give that game a go. I should play Indiana Jones. I really should. But I think they're going to be stuck on this for a while, if I had to guess. It's really what I'm saying.
I'm sure Wolfenstein is still selling. That
I
series of
guarantee it.
games seems to be very popular amongst the achievement trophy hunting community. mostly because of mine leaving, I'm sure. But yeah, it's in 2021. Their highest profit year, and it's 2 years after the worst Wolfenstein game came out. So moving on, this is a weird one. Microsoft concedes that the Outer Worlds 2 retail price was too high. This immediately reminded me of the rent is too damn high guy.
The rent is people can't afford breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's what that's what Phil Spencer said. The rent is too damn high party. Phil Spencer represents the rent is too damn high party.
The Outer Worlds 2 is too damn high.
It's too damn high.
This comes from WindowsCentral.com. Microsoft concedes that the Outer Worlds 2 retail price was too high. Xbox says it will keep our full-priced holiday releases at $69.99 with refunds incoming. Xbox controversially raised the base price of its mainline games to $80 in an announcement a few weeks ago. Now it seems to be backtracking. Good, I say, says the author. 3 things in life are inevitable: death, taxes, and price increases. Although the last one comes with caveats for once. A few weeks ago, Microsoft announced that the base price of its Xbox games at retail would hit frankly staggering $80 per, underpinning what has been an incredibly tough year for consumers and businesses alike with regards to spiraling costs. Whether it's supply chains being impacted by arbitrary trade wars or sticky inflation from COVID, quantitative easing, the market has been relatively unstable for the past few years for a variety of reasons. In response, various businesses have put up their prices to varying degrees. Microsoft and Sony both raised the price of their Xbox and PlayStation hardware bundles over the past couple of years, and for a short while it looked like the industry was poised to raise the price of their mainline games to $80. It started with Nintendo's Mario Kart hitting $79.99 at retail, and then back and forth over whether Borderlands 4 would hit $79.99 as well. It ended up being $69.99. Announced across Xbox social channels, Microsoft and Obsidian revealed that The Outer Worlds 2 will no longer be a $79.99 at launch, returning to the current industry standards of $69.99. We're focused on bringing players incredible worlds to explore, and will keep our full-priced holiday releases, including The Outer Worlds 2, at $69.99 in line with the current market conditions, an Xbox spokesperson explained in a statement to Windows Central. We've talked a lot on this show, especially in the past year, about pricing of consoles and video games and the perceived dollar value per hour, et cetera, when it comes to video games. Brandon, I don't know if you're an Outer Worlds Obsidian RPG guy, but if a game you were mildly interested in was $79.99, would that detract you from buying it at launch versus $69.99?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think. Now, my unique perspective is that this isn't a series I'm interested in, so no, absolutely not. But a $10 difference in something like this that piqued my genuine interest, I feel like is nominal, right? I think that moreover, it is a problem with me knowing that once the ball starts rolling on the $80 price tag, it's going to mean everything that I buy is going to be at an $80 price tag. So it's less about the one-time purchase ramifications and more about the long-time purchase ramifications of many games over a large period of time. So I think that a company like Nintendo is uniquely poised to be able to market games at an $80 price tag because they have things that are so different, so unique to their platform, and IP that is truly generational. Everyone knows who Mario is. Everybody in the world knows who Mario is. That's one of the most recognizable characters. And for that reason, they can get away with other things. Now, if I ask somebody that I know who isn't into video games, if they know what Fallout New Vegas is, or they know what Outer Worlds is, or do you see where I'm going with this? It's just, it doesn't quite have the same sticking power and the same pull that something like an $80 Mario Kart experience would have. So I'm happy to see, and it's one of the rare occasions. I think it's actually going to be better for the game. Does that sound weird for me to say, Dave? I think that over the long run, a slightly lower price tag on this game, I don't think that it's necessarily about the 10 extra dollars per copy. I think that it's more about the optics of this that really, even though it's a nominal difference, will really be good for them generally. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
What are your thoughts? Because I know you're a big fan.
Yeah, I love the Outer Worlds. Played it twice. I like that it was, I don't want to say bite sized, but it was compared to the kind of game it was. It was an RPG that you could finish in, I don't know, 12 to 15 hours, probably 100% and close to 20. Which, when you think of the Outer Worlds, you immediately think of Fallout.
Right.
And those games take easily 40 hours, so it was manageable. Um, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, not intentionally, but I do honestly think this is probably a bad move by Microsoft. And the
Really?
reason
Okay.
I say that is because $80 games are coming. It has been foretold, and the market has been set, and the norm is going to be $80. That's going to be the watermark. And I kind of feel like, setting the price and then going back on it because people wave their pitchforks on social media kind of sets the precedence that anytime you do this sort of thing, that you can come to expect us to about face on our price, which I don't think it's a good look. I think, the market has been set by Nintendo, and we've already seen leaks on the ROG Ally Xbox handheld and what its price is going to be. And I think relative to the Switch 2, this just kind of goes to show what these things are going to cost. And I know I'm talking about consoles, but I think the media, the software follows closely behind where hardware prices are. So
Right.
$80 games are coming, and I thought they were here. And I think if you put your game out there in 2025 for that $80 price tag, and then go ahead and drop it by $10, I don't think that is a good look. And I think you should just kind of make it feel normal, that this is the new price that AAA games are going to be, and if people don't like it, they're going to wait or they're not going to buy it at all. So
Right.
I just think that I wish the big players would rip the band-aid off and make this easy for us. I personally still think that $80 US is excellent value for a game that you're gonna invest 20 hours in. It's great value per hour. So I'm still okay with it, and it's been well documented how we've been long overdue for these price increases, and the fact that we haven't had these nominal increases over the generations has actually made this worse. So I think what Microsoft is doing with the Outer Worlds 2 is only exacerbating that. So
Yeah.
I know it sounds weird for me to say
Right.
I wish the games were more expensive. I don't wish they were more expensive, but I'm trying to be realistic here. And
Yeah.
yeah, this is a weird approach.
Let me ask you this, Dave.
Yes.
Another thought I had while you were speaking. Is this a mark of confidence?
In the
Because
game,
it signals to me as the opposite.
so you think it shows a lack of confidence in the game?
Yes.
Yeah, I can see that. I think these pricing decisions are happening exclusive of what's happening with the QA on the game, the mock reviews that are happening. I don't think they're looking at the state of the Outer Worlds 2 and saying this is going to launch in a pretty shitty state. People are going to be disappointed, so let's drop the price. That's You should probably just fix your game. You can delay it if you have to, and then release the game at the original price. But I this doesn't feel this doesn't instill a lack of confidence in me. And Ed mentions that it shows that pre-orders were soft. Well, I don't think pre-orders is really necessarily needs to be a key performance indicator for a game like the Outer Worlds, especially when it's supposed to be a holiday marquee title. I love the series, but I don't know if it can compete with Ghost of Yotei and Call of Duty 2025 and stuff like that. So yeah, but in any case, I don't think this signals that the game is in trouble from a quality standpoint. Shall we move on?
Yes, sir.
We'll make this one quick because we already talked about Ubisoft, but we can't not talk about Ubisoft defending microtransactions, claiming they make games more fun. More evidence that Ubisoft has lost the plot. This comes
Oh,
from, again, mpfirst.com. Ubisoft, a company that has been in the industry for decades, is going through a tough phase in its history. However, there is one rule that stands out clearly within the French company. Thanks to a 400-page annual financial report, we've learned about the main things shaping its future. This is a long report that goes over all the key details about Ubisoft's plans for 2025. One of the main points that stands out is on page 10, where the company discusses business strategy, particularly how it plans to generate revenues from games. Ubisoft explained the adoption of monetization and engagement policies that respect the player experience and are sustainable in the long term. At Ubisoft, the golden rule when developing premium games is to allow players to enjoy the game in full without having to spend more. They added, our monetization offer within premium games makes the player experience more fun by allowing them to personalize their avatars or progress more quickly. However, this is always optional. While this is not the only point, Ubisoft is certainly one of the most criticized companies for how it treats its users. The policy of shutting down servers, as seen in The Crew, and ensuring that the game is not truly owned by the player or the data collection practices are examples. However, on page 135, this is a different view presented. They stated, the safety and well-being of our players is top priority, and we do everything we can to protect their data, provide safe and enjoyable gaming environments, and guarantee responsible monetization mechanisms. Brandon, you're a Call of Duty guy.
yeah.
You dabble from year to year. I don't know what your kind of stance is on the franchise in 2025, but when you think about monetization practices in games, is there any game where you feel that money you spent over and above purchasing the game itself made the game more fun?
With the only exception being literal DLC content, there is no possible way that this statement holds truth whatsoever. Once again, a silly and tone deaf response from a company that is trying to justify its poor behaviors, whether it is blaming an IP that is quote unquote on the up and down, or it is trying to justify its continued poor practice with the inclusion of egregious microtransactions. They are kind of floundering at this point. And I think that this is another attempt to justify their shitty and inconsistent behavior.
Just going to leave this on the screen. I think about what microtransactions have done to the Assassin's Creed franchise. I don't think they've ruined it or anything, but the thing about Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Origins and Odyssey and what I'm sure Shadows is going to be later this year is like the game starts out really cool, really in tone with kind of the setting and the history that it's trying to represent. But then by the time you get 6 months away from the game and you have mounts that are like unicorns and you have just the most ridiculous kind of costumes that your assassin can wear, it's kind of like, when you play Call of Duty on day one versus if you play it on like, 6 months later and like
Right.
Beavis and Butthead and Megan the Stallion are running around. And it's just like, this is taking me out of this experience. And, I know Assassin's Creed is not, an online game, but it still is like, why? Maybe this works for some people. And apparently they make a lot of money off microtransactions in the Assassin's Creed franchise. So I guess like some people are getting a kick out of, paying extra money to ride around England on a unicorn, with a Viking. But I once, last week they hired Yves Guillemot's son to be a CEO, even though he has no such experience to warrant that. He credited Gen AI as being a good thing, and now they're talking about microtransactions being
fun.
Yeah, and it's they're really losing it over there over at Ubisoft, and it was funny, but now I'm genuinely concerned about them.
Yeah, I think that maybe that statement was generated by AI. The statement they put out was that
poorly generated by AI. we'll move swiftly on to our last news story of the evening. Splitgate 2 is going back to beta. The developers released a tweet about this, but I'm going to pull from an IGN article for this just because it provides a little bit more context on Splitgate and the history of kind of the short history of the franchise. Splitgate 2 will go back to beta to undergo a massive rework amid more layoffs and Splitgate 1 shutdown. On June 6, 2025, 1047 games launched Splitgate 2. Now, less than 2 months later, the developer is about to unlaunch it. It also is taking Splitgate 1 offline and laying off 45 employees. Today, 1047 revealed its plans to temporarily wind down support on the game it just released so the studio can go heads down on what it says will be a complete overhaul of Splitgate 2. The game will remain playable during this time and will still receive its promised Chapter 3 update and some bug fixes, but other than that, Splitgate 2, as we know it, is done. That is until early 2026 when the studio promises it will return with big sweeping changes. While all this sounds pretty dire, it might not come as a surprise to Splitgate 2 players. The game launched to middling reviews, was mired in controversy from the jump, and has since seen a steep drop off in players and plenty of criticism and frustration from those who stuck around. At the time this piece was drafted, a quick look at the main page of the Splitgate subreddit shows almost nothing but complaints about the game, memes about the game's general state, and various threads and links to articles about sinking player counts. It doesn't paint a pretty picture. When I spoke to CEO Ian Prohl last week, he referenced one particular Reddit thread entitled, "If you stop playing Splitgate 2, tell me why." That is effectively a laundry list of player complaints. He says he and the 1047 team read each reply and catalog them, scrutinizing what the most cited issues were. He admits that Splitgate 2, as it launched, is not a finished product yet. Brandon, this is pretty wild. Splitgate was a game that launched in 2021, something like that. It if I recall correctly, it sort of took advantage of Halo Infinite's constant delays
Right.
and scratched an itch that people were waiting for. Sorry, I think it released in 2019. And then Infinite finally launched in 2021. But I don't
Right.
know. Did you ever play the original? Did you ever play the sequel? What do you think about this?
This was a sort of game that never really interests me, really. I remember we looked at this game in 2020 at PAX East.
We did. Yeah.
And it was a very
I remember, Brandon,
interesting.
I remember vividly standing in line for you to play the Pathless, and the Splitgate booth was right beside the Annapurna booth, and we were just kind of watching people play it, being like, "That's Splitgate. That's the big thing." You know, I just had to mention that I vividly remember that. Brandon is currently frozen on my screen with the biggest smile on his face right now. I don't know if others can see that, but hopefully we get Brandon back quick. But this is pretty wild news for a game like this to launch into 1.0 and then just kind of back out into beta as quickly as it did. I immediately thought of like multiverses, and I don't think that was quite the same. I also thought of like Final Fantasy 14 when it kind of like unlaunched itself. But yeah, I don't really know. Now here's the thing: is 1047 has promised that Splitgate is going to be relaunching again in early 2026, and we've seen promises like this before. For I one of the other things that came to mind was Anthem 2.0, and we even got like a list of like all the different features that were going to come in the new kind of release of Anthem, and of course that never happened. So I don't know. I don't know if I have a whole lot of faith in this kind of relaunching. It feels like not necessarily scope creep, but that probably had something to do with it, but more a case of rushing to launch. And maybe this game probably should have just launched in beta to begin with or early access, iron out the issues, get through what you need to, and then, launch in 1.0 when you're ready. But Yeah, it's a really messed up situation, especially because Splitgate 2 was kind of like pretty well regarded when it comes to some of the darling competitive shooters that came out. So yeah, looking at chat, this relaunch highlights one of the core problems with live service games. It does. And as I said, I feel like 1047 probably would have been in a much better spot if they took a step back at the product before they launched it and kind of realized that the game was not ready to be in 1.0, and maybe it wasn't even ready for early access. But Brandon, welcome back. We
Thank
had
you.
you frozen on screen with a lovely look on your face. You just had this really nice smile. You were reacting to me giving you a memory from PAX East 2020. But give me your
Sorry about
thoughts
that.
on Splitgate 2 dropping out into beta.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a recipe for disaster. We see games like the what was that Cartoon Network brawler?
Multiverses. Yeah, I mentioned that
Like
too.
multiverses. And sorry if I'm kind of treading over ground you've already
That's good.
tread over. But I even see here in the official Splitgate subreddit that they lost about 96% of players um, in the first month of launch, and I mean that's nothing to shake a stick at. That's astronomically low numbers, especially for a game that I would assume would be mostly dependent on people spending money via microtransaction. If you don't have players, you don't make money. It's not like you buy in initially, right? So, in addition to that, it looks like they also spend 400K for streamers to stream this game. So that was another bang towards their buck. I know they did a lot of license stream. I saw a lot of streamers playing it, and not even that could get the people in. So it's very clear that this game was kind of misguided. I think from the beginning, and this is what I was trying to say about PAX, is I feel like this game has a bit of an identity crisis where it's like an amalgamation of a couple different things put together. And that doesn't inherently signal there being a problem. But I feel like for that reason, it doesn't necessarily stand out in any significant way. And so, you reap what you sow. I haven't followed it too closely. It sounds like from what you've said and from what's been reported on the subreddit, there's been a lot of problems since launch. And I think that taking it back into beta is kind of a make or break moment for them. I really think that in my eyes, it's kind of a break moment. I think if you have to kind of step back from a game like that, you've already lost all your momentum. So I guess what else do they have to lose at this point? Maybe it will be fine. But with the added addition of them taking the previous game off as well, I wonder what the player count was there too. If it was less than Splitgate 2, maybe that's not a big deal, but we know how divisive with something like Overwatch 1 and 2. Not that they're the same at all, but whenever you get rid of the old, whenever you're trying to push the new, that can also upset people and turn people away as well. So yeah, it's all kind of bad. And the writing has kind of been written on the wall for me since the beginning. I've felt strangely about this game, and not even having played it, having watched a bunch of people play it, and being there at PAX, it didn't really pull me in, and I think a lot of people probably feel the same way. So it just seems uninspiring. It seems, like something I could play in 5 different games mashed together. So I don't know that it's really for me, but
I'm surprised. I thought this game was right up your alley, and I loved the hook of this game. Halo meets Portal, like old school Halo meets
right,
Portal, and I think this
right.
was at a time when like people really really wanted that. We just had like MW19 came back, like we were back to boots on the ground, competitive first person shooter multiplayer games, and I think they built up a pretty solid core, and I think they've got a chance um, to kind of fix this, but they just got to make sure they focus on what that core wants. And it
Right.
sounds like, going through the subreddit, categorizing what everybody's complaining about. I think they have a shot here, but they got to do it right. So focus on what made Splitgate so good and just kind of go from there.
Yeah.
Alrighty. That's the end of the news. Let's get into what we've been playing. Brandon, we're going to start with you. I noticed, you completed something this week, and I would love to hear about that first.
Yeah, of course. So I completed RE5 literally mere hours ago. I
Wow.
completed Resident Evil 5. Um, And it was good. I could say by the end I did enjoy my time with it. I would say I did it amongst like 4 or 5 maybe really good sittings. Uh, time to beats calculator for it was way off. I don't know if I was super slow. I feel like I wasn't really trying to rush through it. I wasn't really trying to be thorough, but it took me significantly longer than the time to beat.com, which is fine because by the end I enjoyed it. So uh, I will say this, and I'm sure it's been said a bunch, the whole actiony multiplayer aspect that they put in this was not really enticing as far as Resident Evil games go, at least for me and what I grew to like about the franchise itself in previous games. But as a standalone experience, I will say, especially for a product of its time, I feel like it offers a pretty decent experience. It is just really hard to kind of stand beside what it stood beside in the past with the same name.
I remember it being a good game, a bad Resident Evil game.
Exactly.
Okay.
They that's exactly it too. So yeah, it was pretty fun. Ultimately, I think that the multiplayer aspect of it, even though it in some ways detracted from it, I feel like it made the experience more palatable. Because at least you could suffer through it with somebody else, I guess. But yeah, I think overall, I came away from Resident Evil 5 a lot more positive than when I started because I was very, very down on it at the beginning. So yeah, I'm glad to be done with it. I will make that very clear. I am glad to be done. And to be moving on to things more aligned with what I'm interested in the series. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun, man, and I had more fun than I could have imagined. So, kind of segueing into that, I did start Resident Evil 6.
I cannot wait for this.
Yeah,
I cannot wait for the next 4 weeks
I
where I
know.
have to listen to you bitch about this game.
Yeah, I know. So in the very brief time that I have with this game, and I want to make it, I want to be transparent about this. I probably have about an hour in it, like no more. I am right after the tutorial. And I could say a few positive things about it so far. Is that I do like that it's newer. I do like that it plays better. But then aside from that, everything else about it has been kind of insufferable so far. Maybe it's just the beginning. But the beginning is very slow. You have to walk around a bunch. And you're kind of limited to like following people around and walking slowly. So I don't know. I think it'll be fine. I think the biggest problem I'm going to have with this game, and it will kind of unfold itself as time goes on, is from what I understand and what I've said in previous podcasts, is the length. So I think that Resident Evil 5 doesn't necessarily outstay its welcome, where I think that Resident Evil 6, even if it has a new coat of paint, is a lot like Resident Evil 5 in a lot of ways, from what I understand. It will just outstay its welcome significantly. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm very early, but we're just trying to get through it, man, because I am on gravy. I'm on the gravy train after that, man. 7 and 8, I am so thrilled to be playing those, and I'm going to be playing Resident Evil 8 in third person, which is something I never would have been interested in, having not played the other games that I've played in the past 2 months.
Sorry, you're playing in third person. I guess your first playthrough was in first person. So
Yes.
Is this just to kind of change it up a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, they added the functionality to be able to play Resident
Yeah.
Evil Village in third person. So, one, I've already played it in first person, so I want to experience it differently. And two, it's almost like, to me, as someone who's just experiencing the series and playing 2, 3, and 4 in such a fantastic way in third person, and it kind of feels nostalgic. Let's say that, having played the other games, even though you know what I mean. It's not actually nostalgic because I'm thinking of the times of the other game. So I'm going to experience the same game I've already loved in a way that feels more like the past games, if that makes sense.
Having just finished Village, I'm looking forward to hearing how you feel about that experience.
Have you tried it?
Third person, no. I felt like the game was made for first person, so I kind of wanted to play it that way. I never played around with the third person, but now I kind of want to go back and and give it a shot.
Dude, New Game Plus would be easy. You have all
Yeah.
your weapons.
Yeah.
You could literally just power through it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that'd be fun. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. So, and then aside from that, I was still playing Dave the Diver. Speaking of overstaying its welcome, I'm really ready to be done with this game. I love this game. It keeps adding new things to do. I could play games of Balatro in the game. I'm fucking around with Godzilla right now. Like, this game has so much to offer for how little the price tag is. It's actually mind blowing how much shit is in this game. How many little mini games are in it? Like, it is mind blowing, but I will say I'm like between 20 and 30 hours. I think I'm in the mid 20s. I'm ready to move on. I am. And that's okay. It's not the game, it's me. I really just want to like get to the next step of it and move on, right? So yeah, love this game, man. I want to shout out to Balatro specifically. I think it's amazing that literally the game of Balatro is in Dave the Diver, like pretty much 1-to-1. I was fucking dying whenever that happened. It was so cool having played Balatro that it's in the game in that way. I love it. I love these crossovers. Balatro's done similar things with having Dave the Diver in their game and other games in the card game, but I love that they literally copy pasted it into Dave the Diver, and I just found that to be very charming and kind of a nice aside. As someone who was kind of getting a little bit burned out with the repetition of Dave the Diver, to then be playing a game I already knew like Balatro inside of Dave the Diver was kind of fun. So
I did not know Balatro was in Dave the Diver. That's pretty cool.
yeah, so like not really spoilers, but you go to a certain area, right? And then these people are like, hey, we're really addicted to this new card game. And then it's like essentially a side quest of having to beat all of these people. But I shit you not, it's literally the menu music comes up. Like it is 1-to-1 Balatro with a little bit of Dave the Diver twist to where like the buffoon pack has like a narwhal on it instead of, you know, whatever, but like the cards are the same, it looks the same visuals happen. It's really fun. It's honestly incredibly cool. So
Cool, man.
yeah, but that's it, man. That's oh, I'm still playing Baldur's Gate, but I don't have anything new to say about that, so I'm still just in Act 2. But love that shit, man. So good.
Cool. For me, so I haven't. This is a game I've been playing for a little while, but I haven't really been able to talk about it. But the first game I want to talk about is an indie game called Sunset High. Now, full disclosure, I did assist the developer with some promotional activities leading up to the release of this game. So anything you hear me say about this game from here on out, technically I did work on the game, the promotion anyways. So maybe I have a bias, but I'm looking forward to talking about it. So Sunset High is it's an indie game from a small developer, just two people, called Turnip Games. And it actually just launched today. It's a narrative-driven sort of detective noir style game, where you play as a high school student who shows up to school one day and their crush, who texted them the night before, is missing. Nobody knows where they are, and it's kind of the sort of game where you have to use a lot of different dialogue options and interact with different cliques in your class and around the school to try to figure out what exactly happened to your crush. And it's a dark game. It's a weird game. It's kind of in the vein of like a Disco Elysium. We use the tagline Disco Elysium meets Donnie Darko in some of our promotional stuff, and it's an interesting game. Now the twist is it's a time loop game. So basically you have objectives that you try to work through, and you work through those objectives by, you know, saying different things to different peoples in your class, and working with different cliques and try to get them to do it, different things. And as you do that, you progress the story. But every time you get to the end of the class, you restart at the same day. And you know, once you clear an objective, then you'll get a new objective. So then you'll have to go through a number of different conversations. And every time you kind of unlock a new objective, you get another clue about what happened to your crush the night before. I think it kind of gave me like Euphoria vibes too, like the TV show where it was a bunch of really fucked up shit happening amongst like teenagers, high school students. And it's interesting. You have these different like detective personas like in your head that you can level up depending on what kind of dialogue options that you use in the game. So if you level up one detective archetype, then you can unlock like these different dialogue options that you wouldn't have otherwise had access to. So it's a really interesting game. The main developer's name is David, and his main artist, his name is Blake. And the art in the game, it's like pixel art, but it's really like eclectic, and it's a very interesting game to look at and kind of process, especially because all of us have been angsty teenagers and can kind of relate to some of the shit that is going through this kid's head. And you live through this kid's thoughts like in the game. So, it's pretty jarring at times. So, Sunset High, it launched today. I think it's like $10.
Yes, 12.
Yeah, definitely worth a look if you're interested in this kind of game. Now it is more of a niche thing. So, I mean, if you're interested in something that's narrative driven and doesn't have a whole lot of action and actually makes you think and is more of like a puzzle, then, just keep that in mind. But definitely a game with a lot of heart in it. And it's a very thought provoking game. So Sunset High, that's something I've been playing for a little while. And I'm really excited. I'm proud of the developer, David and Blake, for getting it out today. So congrats to them. The other thing I've been playing, obviously a little bit more Metroid Prime 2. I don't know if I mentioned to you, or it was a couple of weeks ago, Brandon, where I was saying I need to commit to beating Metroid Prime 2 because it's the kind of game where if you stop playing it, like you literally have to relearn it, and it just kind of takes away from the experience. So been plugging away for that. Another thing I want to say is, I don't know if Derek O is still in chat, but we had the conversation last week about how playing the remaster of Metroid Prime on Switch is advisable because of the way that Metroid Prime on GameCube has aged. Obviously, you don't have the same option with Metroid Prime 2. There was like a trilogy that released on the Wii, but I've decided to play the outdated version first, because if I go and play Metroid Prime Remastered now, it's going to make playing it on this monstrosity that much more difficult. And I call it a monstrosity, but I actually love the GameCube controller. But the one problem is when you're playing this game, you have to hold A to charge up your shot. But then if you want to dodge, which is like extremely important when you're fighting bosses in this game, you have to double tap B, which is right beside, it's the red button there. It's right beside the A. So I kind of have to awkwardly hold my thumb on A to keep my shot charged, but also like double tap B. And it's just like the most early 2000s weird thing. Remember like when you would play on like SNES and you'd be doing this weird, like, it's like that kind of stuff.
Dude, you got a crab claw. It's the classic grip, dude. You got to crab claw the index around to the A and then thumb the B, dude.
Exactly. And Derek, the GameCube controls holding left trigger and standing still so you can look around. So that's the biggest reason why I cannot play remastered on Switch until I finish this, because going to true dual analog will ruin this game for me. So I'm struggling through it. I'm still loving this game, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to mention that because there was some talk about controls specifically with Metroid Prime. Last thing, I installed Destiny 2 for some reason. I have a really weird relationship with this game where I feel so it's the game I watch most on Twitch, not because I have any affinity towards Destiny 2, but my favorite streamer, Leopard, he's a Destiny 2 streamer. So I'm constantly watching it. So every once in a while I have this urge to like just feel like the Bungie first person shooting experience, which is unmatched. And the nice thing about Destiny 2 is it's free to play. If you don't play it for a while, then you're going to jump into a brand new experience that you're never going to know what to do. So yeah, the new Edge of Fate season or whatever just dropped, and no, I haven't done the raid or anything. I just kind of played around with some of the new story stuff, and there's this matter spark ability now where you turn into like a little ball of lightning and you use this to like unlock different areas. It's kind of weird, and I saw someone compare it to like the morph ball in Metroid Prime, funny enough. But I don't know, it feels like they're running out of ideas with Destiny 2 now that you're kind of turning into like a little ball of lightning. So I barely played it, but you know, there's, as I said, the feel of a Bungie first person shooter is pretty much unmatched. So I just love jumping in and, you know, running around and shooting stuff because it feels really, really good. That's it for me.
That's it, man. That's it for the show.
That was a long one, considering it was just two of us.
Yeah, we did it, bro.
We appreciate you joining us. We hope you'll be with us next week. Remember, you can join us on our Discord at handsomephantom.com/Discord. You can also support us on Patreon at handsomephantom.com/Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you so much. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate you.
We love you. Have a good night.
We love all of you. Bye-bye.